All right, Raiders fans, let's break it down because there are so many storylines heating up around the silver and black, and we need to get into all of it. The noise surrounding the quarterback position is only getting louder, and honestly, it feels like the entire fan base is split right down the middle. On one side, you've got people completely fed up with Geno Smith, and on the other, you've got fans who are begging for Aiden O'Connell to get another shot the second he's eligible to come off injured reserve. Remember, when a player lands on short-term IR, that automatically means they're out for at least 4 games. Now, technically, O'Connell could return as soon as Week 5 against the Indianapolis Colts. If he's activated, there's a 3-week window where he either proves he's ready to go or the season's essentially lost for him. Nobody believes that he's just going to sit the whole year. So the real question is whether the coaches will be willing to roll the dice on him the moment he's cleared. Here's the tricky part. Raiders fans are not exactly sold on Kenny Pickett either. Most people just don't know what he brings to the table, so the excitement is more curiosity than confidence. Meanwhile, Geno has been so frustrating that fans are literally shouting from the rooftops that O'Connell would be the better option. And I get it, Geno has played poorly. He's missed open receivers, he's made bad decisions, and the offense looks stuck in neutral when he's under center. But even with all that said, is O'Connell really the savior? In my opinion, no. I don't think O'Connell or Pickett right now are truly better than Geno, but this conversation is unavoidable. As soon as O'Connell's name is back on that practice field, you're going to hear the chants. Raiders fans are going to be begging Pete Carroll to give him the reins, especially if Geno has another rough outing. The organization seems to see it differently, though. Remember, they went out and traded for Kenny Pickett. That wasn't an accident. That wasn't just to fill a roster spot. They gave up assets to bring him in, partly because O'Connell looked rough in the offseason and partly because they wanted a more reliable backup. So, if this turns into a decision between Pickett and O'Connell, the team is leaning Pickett. They believe he's the safer option, even if the ceiling isn't that high. Geno is still the starter for now, and unless he completely falls apart week after week, it's hard to imagine the Raiders benching him this season. While that debate continues to swirl, let's talk about another big piece of news, Lonnie Johnson Jr. and his potential return. When Johnson went down with that broken fibula, everyone assumed his season was done. It looked bad, it sounded bad, and yet somehow there's a chance he could come back off short-term IR. I'm not expecting it to happen this week, and honestly, if I were making the decisions, I wouldn't rush it either. Yes, the Raiders desperately need help in the secondary. That's obvious. The free safety spot in particular has been a glaring weakness, and right now the depth chart just doesn't have a true answer there. But Johnson isn't really that solution either. He was being used more as a big nickel, helping in run support and giving the defense some flexibility in 3 safety looks. He's physical, he's tough, and having him back would boost special teams as well as give extra depth. But he's not the fix for the deep coverage issues. I feel for guys like Isaiah Pola-Mao, who is clearly out of position and not being utilized in a way that maximizes his strengths. That stunts development, and it leaves holes in the defense. Johnson returning would at least allow the coaches to shuffle responsibilities and maybe cover up some of those issues. And facing a team like Indianapolis, who runs the football heavily, having a strong run-stopping safety could be crucial. Even if he isn't at full speed yet, just his presence on the roster helps stabilize the rotation. But again, it's something to monitor rather than something to expect immediately. Now let's move into what might be the most concerning injury storyline of them all, Kolton Miller. The big left tackle is dealing with a high ankle sprain, and if you know anything about those, you know they don't heal overnight. Officially, the Raiders haven't given a timetable, but based on how severe these injuries usually are, I would not expect to see Miller until at least after the bye week. The earliest realistic return is Week 9 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. It just doesn't make sense to rush him back before then. This is a player with a history of ankle issues dating back to college, and he is arguably the most important piece of this offensive line. Protecting your quarterback is already tough when Geno's holding onto the ball too long. Without Miller, that task becomes even more difficult. So what are the options? None of them are great. You got Stone Forsythe, who stepped in when Miller went down. He's big, he's played some snaps at left tackle, but let's be real, he's not the long-term answer, and there's not much confidence he can hold up against elite edge rushers. Another path is giving rookie Charles Grant the nod. The coaches have been hesitant, scratching him from the active roster several times, and word is he's not ready. But maybe this is the moment where you throw him into the fire and see if he can grow. Remember, Miller himself allowed 16 sacks as a rookie. He looked awful at times, but the experience shaped him into one of the league's best left tackles today. Sometimes the only way to learn is by struggling through it, and Grant might have to take those lumps. Then there's the wild card option. Pete Carroll and this staff have shown in the past that they're willing to move guys around, sometimes in surprising ways. That could mean shifting DJ Glaze, who might be the best natural tackle on the roster, over to the left side. Then you shuffle the rest of the line, JPJ to left guard, Jordan Meredith to center, Alex Kappa at right guard, and Dylan Parham bumped out to right tackle, since he's played that spot before. It's a risky approach, and continuity is usually more important than mixing everything up, but don't rule it out completely. The coaches have their guys, and sometimes it means forcing the puzzle pieces to fit whether or not it looks logical on paper. The offensive line situation is massive because of what it means for the running game. Against Chicago, the Raiders piled up over 200 rushing yards, their best performance of the year. That gave fans a glimpse of what this offense could be if the trenches dominate. But losing Miller threatens to undo all that progress. You can't truly replace him, but you have to at least find a combination that holds steady until he's back. Personally, if I had to make the call, I'd go with Charles Grant at left tackle. Let the kid take his lumps, keep Meredith inside, JPJ anchoring the middle, Parham at right guard, and Glaze at right tackle. That keeps most of the core together while giving the rookie a chance to prove himself. It may not be pretty early, but it's about long-term growth as much as surviving week to week. While the offensive line battles their issues, the secondary has its own set of problems. Eric Stokes is the name to watch here. He's the most physical cornerback on the roster, and his absence is glaring. Without him, the Raiders are relying on guys like Darian Porter and Q Blue Kelly. And let's be honest, that duo might be one of the weakest starting tandems in the entire league right now. Porter is soft against the run. Kelly has been burned repeatedly, and opposing quarterbacks are targeting them without hesitation. Stokes, even if not at 100%, changes the tone on the outside. He's aggressive, he tackles well, and he brings an energy this secondary desperately lacks. The problem is the knee. He's had multiple issues with it throughout his career, dating back to his college days at Georgia, and now it's flaring up again. He left week 4 early and couldn't return, which is a scary sign given his history. Add in the fact that rookie Cameron Richardson has been sidelined with a nagging hamstring injury, and suddenly the cornerback depth chart looks paper-thin. This is not the group you want lining up against the Colts offense that's going to run downhill and also take shots off play action. The coaching staff has a massive challenge here, and unless someone unexpected steps up, this secondary could be the weak link that sinks games. Now, before I move on to what's next, let's not forget about the offense beyond the line. Michael Myers' name has been floating around, and the expectation is that he's trending toward a return. The Raiders leaned heavily into 2 tight end sets last week, using Ian Thomas and Brock Bowers together, and it really opened up the running game. Adding Mayer back into that mix would give even more flexibility. Imagine Bowers split out wide, Thomas and Mayer in tight, and suddenly defenses have to guess whether you're running downhill or spreading them out. That's the kind of versatility this offense needs, especially if wide receiver depth continues to be an issue. Right now, it feels like Bowers, Jacoby Myers, and Trey Tucker are the only consistent threats. Somebody else has to emerge, and the tight end group might be the key to making that happen. And speaking of emerging, how about Ashton Janney? 3 total touchdowns, averaging over 6 yards per carry. It was the breakout performance the Raiders desperately needed. With Miller sidelined and Geno struggling, Janney might need to become the focal point of the offense moving forward. The plan all offseason was to stretch the field, let Geno sling it, and open up the run game off of that. But reality is forcing a different approach. If I'm drawing up a game plan, I'm putting the ball in Janney's hands 20 times a game, no question. He runs with power, he runs with vision, And when the line gives him even the smallest crease, he can turn it into something explosive. Forget the pistol looks. Line him up and let him bulldoze defenders. That's the kind of identity this team needs right now. Physical, punishing, and relentless. When you look deeper into what the Raiders are dealing with right now, it almost feels like every storyline ties back into the same theme. Pressure. Pressure on the coaching staff to make the right calls, pressure on the veterans to live up to expectations, and pressure on the younger players to step up sooner than anyone anticipated. It's not just about the quarterback debate or the injuries. It's about whether this team can stay composed when every outside voice is questioning their direction. Geno Smith, for example, is hearing it from all sides. Fans are losing patience. The media is pointing out every mistake. And the reality is that he doesn't have the luxury of time. He's got to show improvement quickly, or else the noise around O'Connell and Pickett is only going to grow louder. This is one of those moments in a quarterback's career that can define how he's remembered. If he fights through it, steadies the offense, and puts together solid performances even with a banged-up line, people will give him credit for resilience. If he continues to sputter, though, it could be the beginning of the end for his role as a starter in Las Vegas. The coaching staff isn't free from the spotlight either. Pete Carroll was brought in to steady the ship, to bring experience and authority to a franchise that has been desperate for stability. But the Raiders fan base is demanding answers. Why is the offensive line still such a glaring weakness after years of draft picks and signings? Why do defensive backs look lost in coverage? Why does the team so often seem to play down to its competition? These aren't just small criticisms. They're the type of concerns that build into narratives if the team doesn't start stringing wins together. Carroll's reputation is strong enough to buy some patience. But this is not a rebuilding year in the minds of most fans. Raider Nation expects competitiveness every single Sunday, and anything less feels unacceptable. Then you factor in the emotional toll of the injuries. Colton Miller's absence is not just about losing talent on the field. It's about the ripple effect it creates everywhere else. Without him, the offensive line shuffles. When the line shuffles, protection breaks down. When protection breaks down, Geno starts pressing. And when Geno presses, mistakes multiply. One injury can alter the entire rhythm of an offense. And that's exactly what the Raiders are staring at right now. The best-case scenario is that one of these younger linemen, whether it's Charles Grant or someone else, takes advantage of the opportunity and proves they can handle the spotlight. That's the optimistic angle. But as every fan knows, optimism doesn't always match reality in the National Football League. Defensively, the spotlight is just as harsh. Lonnie Johnson Jr. potentially returning is encouraging, but it doesn't erase the fact that this secondary has been exposed repeatedly. Opposing quarterbacks are not afraid to test the Raiders' corners because the tape shows they can be beaten. Eric Stokes is the one guy who brings that physical edge and confidence to the cornerback group, and his knee issue makes his availability a week-to-week guessing game. Without him, it feels like the defense is playing with a handicap. When you combine shaky cornerback play with an inconsistent pass rush, it's a recipe for long drives, third down conversions, and eventually, points allowed. The Raiders don't have the offensive firepower right now to win shootouts, so the defense has to tighten up if this team wants to compete. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on our Las Vegas Raiders. And don't be shy. Drop your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Rich Gannon, the former Raiders quarterback and NFL MVP, has sent shockwaves through the league with an eyebrow-raising comment about the future of the Las Vegas Raiders. In what fans are calling a bombshell, Gannon hinted that the storied franchise could be on the verge of a major shakeup, sparking wild speculation across sports media and social networks. Speaking in a recent interview, Gannon didn't hold back. While he carefully avoided confirming any specific moves, his words suggested a level of uncertainty about the Raiders' direction that few expected from a former team icon. "You never know what's coming next in this league," Gannon said cryptically. "But I think the Raiders are at a crossroads, and the decisions they make in the next year could surprise a lot of people." The comments have ignited a frenzy among fans and analysts alike. Could this be a hint at a front office overhaul, a blockbuster trade, or perhaps a shakeup in coaching? The Raiders have struggled with consistency in recent seasons, and whispers about internal tension have circulated for months. But hearing a former MVP speak so openly about the potential for change is something entirely new. Social media erupted almost immediately after the interview aired. Fans flooded platforms with theories ranging from quarterback drama to relocation rumors, and even potential shifts in ownership strategy. The intrigue is heightened by Gannon's unique perspective. As a player who once led the team to glory, his insights carry weight, and his choice of words has left many wondering if he has insider knowledge. Sports networks have already begun dissecting every nuance of his statements, and league insiders admit the timing is perfect for speculation. With free agency and the draft on the horizon, any suggestion of instability could have ripple effects throughout the league. While Gannon's remarks are technically just commentary, in the world of NFL rumor mills, they might be enough to start a tidal wave of chatter, trade rumors, and wild predictions. One thing is clear. The Raiders fan base is now buzzing like never before. From the Strip to Oakland alumni groups, every statement, gesture, or a cryptic social media post is being scrutinized for clues. Whether Gannon was merely stirring the pot or signaling a real turning point, his words have already done what few off-field stories manage. They've captured the imagination of an entire league. As the NFL continues its off-season shuffle, all eyes will be on Las Vegas. And with Rich Gannon's latest revelation, every Raiders rumor, however wild, is now being taken a little more seriously. One thing is certain, nothing about the Silver and Black's future feels predictable anymore. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Las Vegas Raiders, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.